Daniel Wright fixed his tie as he stood before the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. Behind these doors waited 17 alien species, all more advanced than humans. His heart beat fast, but his face showed nothing. As Earth's first diplomat to the stars, too much was at stake to show weakness. "They're ready for you now," Ambassador Wright said, a small blue alien with 4 arms. Daniel nodded and walked forward. The doors, each 50 feet tall, opened silently. The chamber beyond was huge, with curved rows rising up like a giant bowl. Each section held different aliens. Some looked almost human, others were completely strange with tentacles, multiple eyes, or bodies made of what looked like crystal or gas. 5 years ago, humans had just figured out faster-than-light travel. Now they had small colonies on nearby stars. And now, finally, the Galactic Council had invited Earth to present itself. Or summoned them, as it turned out. As Daniel walked to the small platform in the center, he felt the stares of hundreds of alien eyes. The council members sat at the highest level, each one representing a different species. Their seats were bigger, their clothes fancier. It was clear who had the power here. The Taraxian representative stood first. Ambassador Vextol was tall and thin with gray skin that seemed to shimmer. His eyes, all 4 of them, looked down at Daniel. "The council recognizes the human representative," Vextol said, his voice deep and echoing through the chamber. "We have observed your kind for some time." Daniel bowed slightly. "Humanity is honored too." "Your honor is not our concern," Vextol cut him off. "Your presence in the galaxy, however, is." The chamber went quiet. Daniel kept his face calm, but he knew something was wrong. This wasn't the welcome they had expected. "Humanity," Vextol continued, "has shown itself to be aggressive, unpredictable, and dangerous. You kill each other over land, resources, and even ideas. You poison your own planet, and now you bring these habits to the stars." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Daniel stood still, listening. Another alien stood up, the Arthean representative. She looked almost like a praying mantis, but stood 7 feet tall. "The human species discovered space travel only after creating weapons that could destroy their entire world," she said. "They make war, then peace, then war again. Can we trust such creatures with the technology to travel between stars?" More murmurs, louder now. Daniel watched carefully, noting which species seemed to agree and which looked uncertain. He had studied diplomacy for 30 years on Earth. He knew when to speak and when to listen. "We propose," Vextol announced, "that Earth be placed under protective quarantine. For the safety of all galactic species, humans should be restricted to their home system until they evolve beyond their violent nature." The chamber erupted with noise. Most were agreeing. Some were shouting for even harsher measures. For 3 days, it continued. Daniel was made to sit and listen as species after species listed humanity's flaws. They showed videos of Earth's wars, pollution, and crimes. They discussed humans as if they were dangerous animals, not people. And still, Daniel said nothing. He took notes. He watched which species spoke to each other during breaks. He noticed the small groups that seemed less convinced. Most importantly, he saw the fear behind the anger. These ancient species were afraid of humans, though they would never admit it. On the 4th day, the council head, a being made of what looked like living light, turned to Daniel. "The human representative may now address the council. You have 5 minutes to speak for your species." Daniel stood up slowly. The chamber went quiet. Everyone expected him to beg, or get angry, or make excuses. He did none of these things. Instead, he smiled. "Thank you for your honesty," he said calmly. "Now it's my turn." The council chamber was silent as Daniel Wright began to speak. Every alien eye watched him, waiting for him to beg or shout. Many had already turned on recording devices. They wanted to capture the moment when the human broke down. "I have listened to you all for 3 days," Daniel said, his voice clear and calm. I have heard how primitive and dangerous you think humans are. Now I will speak, not to defend, but to inform." He pressed a small button on his wrist device. The large screens around the chamber lit up with images, documents, and videos. "The Phyrexian Empire," Daniel said, looking directly at Ambassador Vextol, "speaks about human violence. Yet 200 years ago, they destroyed the entire Novan civilization. 12 billion lives ended because the Novans discovered a resource the Phyrexians wanted." Vextol jumped to his feet. "Those are sealed records. How did you?" "The Arthians," Daniel continued as if he hadn't heard, "call humans polluters. Here are images of the waste dumps they created on 17 outer rim planets. Dumps filled with toxic materials that killed the native life forms." The Arthian representative's mandibles clicked in anger. The chamber filled with shocked whispers. "Each of you," Daniel said, turning slowly to face the entire council, "has hidden your own violent past. You bury your mistakes in secret files and judge us for ours, which we admit openly. We know we aren't perfect, but at least we're honest about it." A tall alien with purple skin stood up. "This meeting is over. The human will be removed." "Not yet," said another voice. From a dark corner stepped a reptilian being with shimmering scales. "The Tellurian Alliance invokes the right of full hearing. The human must be allowed to finish." Daniel nodded thankfully to the Tellurian. This was exactly what he had expected. "Humanity is young," he continued. "We achieved in thousands of years what took many of you millions. We fought wars, yes. We made mistakes. But we also created art, music, and literature that celebrate peace. We have worked to fix our environment. Most importantly, we learned from our mistakes." Daniel pulled out a small device and placed it on the floor. It projected a hologram of Earth and nearby star systems. "While you were busy insulting us, humans were busy building alliances. The Tellurians, the Vestari, and the Kadishi, all races that sit among you today, have already signed treaties with Earth." The chamber erupted in angry shouts and confused questions. These three species were not the most powerful, but they were respected. Why would they ally with humans? "These races reached out to us in secret," Daniel explained. "They told us how the Council works, how the founding species keep the newer ones down, how technology is controlled, how freedom is limited." Daniel pointed to his small diplomatic ship, visible through the chamber's giant window. "My ship contains proof of everything I've said, including council members' private communications planning to restrict human development even before meeting us. These files have already been sent to every member world's public networks." The council leader, the being of light, flared brightly in what seemed like anger. "You have violated our most sacred privacy laws." Daniel smiled. "And you plan to violate our most sacred right, the right to determine our own future. If Earth is quarantined, these files go public across the galaxy. If not, perhaps we can start fresh, as equals." He looked around the silent room. "We don't want war. We want partnership. But we will not be treated as children. Humanity has earned its place among the stars, not by being perfect, but by being willing to face our imperfections." Daniel placed his hands behind his back and stood straight. "Your 5 minutes are up, council members. Now you have 5 days to decide. Will you have humanity as friends, or as the ones who showed the galaxy what you really are?" The chamber remained silent. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council didn't know what to do. The Grand Minister of the Arthians recovered first. Her tall, insect-like form rose from her seat, mandibles clicking in anger. "Remove this human at once," she demanded. "He threatens the very foundation of our council with stolen information." Security drones moved toward Daniel, their weapons ready. But before they could reach him, the chamber doors slid open with a loud hiss. A woman walked in with confident steps, followed by 10 humans in different uniforms. Some wore military clothes with stars and medals. Others carried scientific equipment. "Ambassador Wright will not be removed," the woman said. Her voice was strong and carried across the chamber. "I am Ambassador Eliza Morgan, head of Earth's full diplomatic team." The council leader's light form flickered in what seemed like surprise. This session was for one representative only. The Tellurian representative stood again, scales gleaming under the lights. "I invoke the rightful defense protocol. When a species is accused, as humans have been, they may bring their full delegation." "That law has not been used in 4,000 years, protested Vextul. "But it remains valid," said the Tellurian, "unless you wish to ignore your own laws." The chamber erupted into shouting. Some council members demanded the humans leave. Others wanted to hear more. A few were already sending urgent messages to their homeworlds. Meanwhile, across the galaxy on Earth, billions of humans watched everything through quantum transmissions. What was supposed to be a proud moment for humanity had turned into a tense standoff. Military bases around Earth went on high alert. Ships prepared for possible attack. But in the White House, President Samantha Garcia addressed the world with calm words. "We have complete trust in our diplomatic team. Ambassador Wright and Ambassador Morgan have prepared for this moment for years. This is not the time for fear, but for strength and unity." Back in the council chamber, Morgan's team spread out. A military officer handed out small data devices to interested representatives. A scientist set up displays showing Earth's technological achievements. While Ambassador Wright spoke truth about your histories, Morgan said, addressing the council, "I come with proof of your present actions." She activated a large hologram in the center of the chamber. It showed maps and documents. "These are records of how the founding council species have limited technology sharing, how new members are kept dependent, how your peacekeepers actually enforce economic control." A tall blue alien with 4 arms, a Kadeshi, stood up from the middle rows. "We joined the council 300 years ago. We were promised technology exchange. Instead, our best innovations were suppressed because they would compete with Soraxian products." Other representatives began to speak up. A bird like Vesteri fluttered her wings in agitation. "Our world's request for advanced medical technology was denied 7 times without explanation." The chamber grew louder as more species shared similar stories. The council leaders looked at each other with worry. Their carefully built system of control was being exposed. Morgan walked to stand beside Daniel. "We don't want to destroy the council," she said when the noise decreased. "We want to reform it. To make it truly fair for all species, not just the founders." The Arthian Grand Minister's eyes narrowed. "You have been a space-faring race for merely 5 years. You cannot possibly understand galactic politics." "Perhaps that's exactly why we see it clearly," Daniel replied. "We aren't blinded by thousands of years of tradition and privilege." As the debate heated up again, a message flashed on all screens in the chamber. Earth's small but advanced fleet had begun joint exercises with Tellurian ships near a disputed sector. The human ships displayed weapons technology that, while not as advanced as the Council's best ships, used strategies no one had seen before. "We are prepared for any outcome," Morgan said calmly, "diplomatic or otherwise. But we would prefer friendship to conflict." The council chamber, once a place of order and control, had become a scene of confusion and divided loyalties. Nothing would ever be the same again. As the main council session broke for the day, smaller meetings began throughout the massive space station. Daniel Wright and Eliza Morgan moved quickly, knowing they had limited time to build support before the council reconvened. They entered a quiet meeting room where representatives from 7 mid-tier species waited nervously. These were races that had joined the council in the last few thousand years, young by galactic standards, but still far older than humanity in space. "Thank you for meeting with us," Daniel said, sitting down at the round table. "I know this involves risk for all of you." A Vesteri representative, looking like a graceful bird with shimmering purple feathers, spoke first. "Your revelations today confirmed what many of us have suspected for centuries, but no one dared to speak openly. The Vesteri were telepaths. Not mind readers as humans once imagined in science fiction, but they could sense emotions and detect lies. This made them valuable allies. "We have evidence," Morgan said, placing a data crystal on the table, "and a plan for council reform that would benefit all members, not just the founders." On the other side of the station, in a large observation deck overlooking the stars, Captain John Miller of the Earth ship Defiance stood with Admiral Zorn of the Tellurian fleet. Both watched as their ships moved in perfect formation through space. "Your pilots learn quickly," Admiral Zorn said, his scaled face showing what might be a smile. "Most new species take years to master these maneuvers." Miller nodded. "Humans have always been quick adapters. It's how we survived on Earth." "The Council founders fear that quality in you," Zorn replied. "They prefer species who follow established patterns. Predictable. Controllable." The joint exercise continued, with human ships demonstrating tactics that confused the standard Council tracking systems. They didn't have the most advanced weapons, but they used what they had in surprising ways. News of the exercise spread quickly through the station. Council military advisors watched with growing concern as human ships performed maneuvers their tactical computers couldn't predict. Meanwhile, Daniel and Morgan met with the Kedeshi, master engineers whose innovations had been repeatedly blocked by Council technology restrictions. The four-armed blue aliens showed great interest in human manufacturing methods. "Your approach is different," said Chief Engineer Balix, examining diagrams of Earth factories. "Less efficient in some ways, but more flexible. You can change production quickly." "Adaptability has always been our strength," Daniel explained. "We would welcome technology exchange with the Kadeshi. A true exchange, not the one-way system the Council enforces." As these meetings continued, the Arthian Grand Minister and Vextul of the Exaraxians met in a secure chamber with other founding species. "The humans are building a coalition against us," Vextul hissed. "They must be stopped before they undermine thousands of years of stability." The Grand Minister's compound eyes reflected the light coldly. "They are turning our laws against us, using our own protocols to force us into corners." "There is another option," said a shadowy figure from the corner. "An ancient trial that would settle this matter definitively." Back in the public areas of the station, Morgan presented her proposal for council reform to a growing audience of interested species. The plan would create a more balanced system where all members had meaningful input, not just the founders. "This change doesn't threaten anyone's security," she explained to the crowd. "It simply ensures fair treatment for all galactic citizens, regardless of how long their species has been in space." Word of her proposal spread quickly through the station. Junior members of council delegations attended in growing numbers, despite orders from their seniors to stay away. The galaxy was changing. Conversations that had never happened before were taking place in every corner of the station. Species that had accepted their lower status for millennia began to question the system. And at the center of it all were the humans, just 5 years into space travel, yet already reshaping a political system that had stood for 10,000 years. The council chamber was packed when the session resumed. News of the human coalition building had spread throughout the station. Even species not directly involved came to watch what many believed would be a historic meeting. Ambassador Vextul of the Exaraxians stood dramatically as soon as the session began. His gray skin seemed darker than before, his 4 eyes glowing with intensity. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The human situation has created division among us. There is a way to resolve this matter that follows our oldest traditions." Daniel and Morgan exchanged glances. Their intelligence had warned them this might happen. "I invoke the trial of valor," Vextul announced. "An ancient and sacred rite that has not been used in 5,000 years, but remains part of our founding laws." The chamber erupted with shocked whispers. Many younger species had never even heard of this trial. The council leader's light form pulsed rapidly. "The trial of valor is a combat challenge between species representatives. Are you certain you wish to invoke such a serious measure, Ambassador Vextul?" "I am," Vextul replied confidently. The humans claim they deserve equal status despite their youth. Let them prove it through the trial our ancestors established for exactly such disputes. Daniel stood calmly. The human delegation accepts the trial of valor. The chamber went completely silent. No one had expected the humans to accept so quickly. Vextol's confidence wavered slightly. You understand this is physical combat between champions. To first blood or surrender. We understand completely, Daniel replied. In fact, we found references to this trial in our research before coming here. We came prepared. This was not what Vextol had expected. The Xeraxians were known for their strength and combat training. He had assumed the humans would either refuse the challenge or need time to prepare, both of which would make them look weak. Then choose your champion, Vextol said, recovering quickly. The trial will take place tomorrow. My champion will be Graxon, military commander of the Xeraxian elite guard. A massive Taraxian stepped forward from behind Vextol. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, with muscles bulging under his gray skin. Many in the chamber gasped. Graxon was famous for his fighting skills throughout the galaxy. Daniel turned to the human delegation. Our champion will be Dr. Susan Chen. A small woman stood up from among the scientific advisors. She looked to be in her 50s, with short black hair streaked with gray and a calm expression. She was barely 5 feet tall and looked completely ordinary. Laughter erupted from the Xeraxian section. Vextol didn't try to hide his amusement. This is your champion. An elderly scientist. He asked between laughs. Susan Chen walked calmly to the center of the chamber and bowed respectfully to the council. I am a scientist, she confirmed. I specialize in xenobiology and comparative anatomy. I also hold black belts in 3 earth martial arts and have studied combat techniques for 40 years. The next day, the station's largest arena was filled with representatives from every species. The trial of valor was set to begin. In the center, a circular platform was prepared for the combat. Graxon entered first, his massive form drawing cheers from his supporters. He carried no weapons. The trial was fought with natural abilities only. Susan Chen entered quietly, wearing a simple black uniform. She looked tiny compared to her opponent, but those close enough could see her eyes, focused, calm, and completely unafraid. As the two took their positions, Vextol watched confidently from the VIP section. The outcome seemed obvious. His champion had 4 times the strength and reach of the human. What Vextol didn't know was that Susan Chen was more than she appeared. Like many older human specialists, she had received subtle biotechnology enhancements, nothing flashy or obvious, but improvements to reaction time, bone density, and muscle efficiency. The signal to begin sounded. Graxon charged forward with a roar, ready to end the fight quickly. Susan Chen simply smiled and stepped to meet him. The arena fell silent as Graxon charged. His massive form moved with surprising speed for his size. He aimed a powerful strike at Susan Chen's head, a blow that could shatter stone. But Susan wasn't there anymore. She moved so quickly many eyes couldn't follow. One moment she stood directly in Graxon's path, the next she was beside him. Her hand struck out, hitting a spot where the Xeraxian's gray skin joined at the neck. Graxon stumbled, confused. He swung again, a wide arc that should have been impossible to avoid in the limited space. Susan ducked under his arm and struck 3 more points on his body, places where Xeraxian nerve clusters were located, knowledge from her xenobiology studies. The crowd watched in amazement as the small human woman moved like water around the increasingly frustrated Xeraxian warrior. She never tried to match his strength. Instead, she used his own power against him, redirecting his momentum and striking with precision rather than force. After 5 minutes, Graxon was breathing heavily. After 10, he could barely stand. Susan had struck key points that disrupted his balance and coordination. With one final move, a technique no one in the arena had ever seen before, Susan swept Graxon's legs from under him and pinned him to the ground, her fingers positioned at a vital point on his neck. Yield, she said quietly. The mighty Xeraxian champion had no choice. "I yield," he gasped. The arena erupted, some in cheers, others in shocked silence. According to ancient law, humanity had won full council membership and the right to review previous council decisions. Ambassador Vextol's face showed pure shock. This was never supposed to happen. Within hours, Daniel Wright and Eliza Morgan led a team of human specialists into the deepest levels of the council archives, areas that had been restricted for thousands of years. With their new authority, no section was off-limits. What they found shocked even them. "Look at this," said Lisa Kim, a human data analyst, pointing to files on a secure console. Plans for systematic technology suppression going back 5,000 years. Daniel leaned in to read. They've been deliberately holding back medical advances, clean energy technology, even food production methods. Morgan found another file. Here's why. The founding species planned to keep newer races dependent on them. They called it managed development. But the worst discovery came from deeper files. Plans labeled species retirement protocols. They were planning to eventually eliminate younger species once they had served their economic purpose, Daniel said quietly. Not immediate extinction, but gradual reduction through controlled plagues and resource limitations. Humanity was next on this list, Morgan added, her voice tight with anger. After they finished with the Kadeshi and Vesteri, the human team worked through the night, copying and organizing the evidence. By morning, Daniel made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. Send everything to all council worlds, he ordered. Every planet, every colony, every station. Full public access. Within hours, the information spread across thousands of worlds. News channels on every planet broadcast the shocking revelations. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds as ordinary citizens learned how their development had been stunted for millennia. On the Xeraxian homeworld, crowds surrounded government buildings. Kadeshi engineers disabled control systems that had limited their technology. Vesteri telepaths shared the emotional impact of the betrayal through their empathic networks. The carefully maintained order of the Galactic Council began to collapse. As governments faltered across the galaxy, Admiral Laura Peterson positioned Earth's small fleet strategically throughout nearby sectors, not as a threat, but as protection. "We're not here to conquer," she announced on all frequencies. "We're here to ensure peaceful transition. No opportunistic attacks between worlds will be tolerated during this time of change." Human diplomatic teams launched from Earth toward planets in turmoil, offering help to stabilize new governments. In the council chamber, once full of confidence and tradition, the founding species representatives sat in stunned silence. 10,000 years of control had ended in just 6 days. Daniel Wright looked at them without hatred, just determination. "The old galaxy is gone," he said simply. "It's time to build a better one." 6 months after Daniel Wright's first address to the Galactic Council, representatives from 42 species gathered in a new location, Armstrong City on Earth's moon. The large, dome-covered colony offered neutral ground for what many now called the galaxy's second beginning. The old council station had been abandoned. Too many species associated it with the corrupt system that had controlled their lives for millennia. Now, in a conference hall with a magnificent view of Earth rising over the lunar surface, a new galactic charter was being written. Daniel Wright, now Earth's official galactic ambassador, looked around at the diverse gathering with quiet pride. Beings of all forms sat together, some breathing different air mixtures through special masks, others requiring different gravity settings in their sections. But all were equal at the table. "We propose that technology sharing should be open to all member species," said Balix, the Kadeshi engineer who had become a leading voice in the transition. "No more suppression of innovation." Ambassador Morgan nodded in agreement, with safeguards to prevent purely military technologies from spreading unchecked. The Vesteri representative, her feathers now decorated with symbols of her world's new government, added, and education exchange programs between all worlds. Knowledge belongs to everyone. Most surprising to many was the presence of representatives from the former Council founding races. Not all had come. The Ictaraxians and Arthians had initially refused, but some recognized the need for change. An elderly Grexian, whose species had been among the original Council founders, spoke slowly. For 8,000 years, my people helped maintain a system we believed created stability. We were wrong. It created stagnation instead. We wish to join this new beginning. Outside the conference hall, human and alien engineers worked together on the framework for a new galactic communication network, one without the censorship and monitoring the old Council had built into their systems. On dozens of worlds across the galaxy, joint scientific teams were already solving problems that had been artificially maintained for centuries. Medical breakthroughs were saving lives. New energy systems were replacing polluting technologies. Admiral Peterson stood at a viewpoint overlooking the conference hall. Beside her was Admiral Zorn of the Tellurians. 6 months ago, I thought we might be at war by now, Peterson said. Zorn's scaled face formed what humans now recognized as a smile. Instead, we are forming the galaxy's first truly joint defense force. There will still be challenges, Peterson noted. Change this big doesn't come easily. No, Zorn agreed. The Ictaraxians are still refusing contact. 3 outer systems have declared independence from the new alliance, but it is still the most progress the galaxy has seen in millennia. Inside the hall, as the day's session concluded, Daniel stood to make a short speech. The room fell silent. 6 months ago, humanity was judged too dangerous to join galactic society, he began. We were called primitive, violent, unpredictable. Perhaps we are all those things sometimes, but we are also adaptive, innovative, and unwilling to accept artificial limitations. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes, eye stalks, and sensory organs of dozens of different species. The stars belong to no single species, he continued. The universe challenges us all equally with its vastness and its dangers. Only together, with each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities, can we truly call ourselves a galactic civilization. As Daniel finished speaking, the Earth became fully visible through the dome above, a blue gem hanging in space. The planet that had been deemed too dangerous to join the galactic community was now its meeting place. The new charter was signed the next day. The document's first line read, "All sentient species, regardless of origin, age, or development, shall be considered equal members of the galactic family, with equal rights to grow, learn, and reach their full potential." In an ironic twist that was not lost on anyone, humanity, once deemed too dangerous to join galactic society, had become its greatest advocate for freedom, equality, and progress. Ambassador Wright would later write in his personal journal, "Sometimes the greatest diplomatic victory comes not from having the most power, but from being underestimated by those who do."